What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Sexton Sobriety. Today, I want to talk about shame, regret, and also expectations of other people and of yourself when you are in recovery. So, in early recovery, you can basically start to relive past traumas and you can start remembering not only things that happened to you, but things that you did to other people. And this can be extremely overwhelming because it's usually paired with withdrawal symptoms. So you're having cold sweats, you're shaky, you're anxious, maybe have a lack of appetite and various other things. But then the shame and regret comes in. And so naturally your impulse could be, hey, maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe I need to use to deal with this because this is really overwhelming and hard, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to maintain this for years to come. That feeling is completely normal. Just try to keep in mind, it does not serve you to indulge in this shame and regret. The best thing to do is to find acceptance. And I'm not just going to sit here and be like, oh, just snap your finger and then all of a sudden you're in acceptance. No, for me, I needed guidance. I had to be told what to do. And as someone who hates authority still to this day, that was really hard for me. I had to learn to share openly and honestly with people because the impulse went for me when I felt that shame and regret was to like, oh, I need to stuff this down. I need to hide this because this is overwhelming. And I just had a natural impulse to try to hide it. So then I had people in my life that were encouraging me to share. Specifically, I had an addiction counselor, and she started sharing stuff that she previously had shame and regret about. And that opened the door for me to do the same. And so that's why I'm such an advocate for lived experience, because for me, that was crucial. And it just kind of showed me the path. It was like, here's this path you can take. And it involves being open and honest and accountable. So I started sharing about this stuff. That was the first thing. It was just sharing about it openly and honestly. In just doing that alone, I felt a huge shift. So much so that I started oversharing with anyone that would listen. Like anyone that would listen to me, I would share about very deep stuff, my feelings in addiction, my feelings in early recovery, my past mistakes. And then it would teeter on the line of being like self-hatred in a way. So I wanted to bring that up just so maybe people can avoid that. I think it's important to be compassionate towards yourself, be kind and be loving, but also be accountable. So I had to find that balance. I didn't know how to do that. So I just went full-fledged, like I was a, junkie, I was a shitty person, all this stuff, all these words. And I realized later on, that's a whole different story, but that these words are very powerful. And I should only say words that are positive and affirming when I'm speaking about myself. So basically, like I said, I started off just talking about this stuff. Then later on, I was offered opportunities through specific, recovery tools to write about it, to like write it down specifically, to look at my fears, to look at my resentments, to look at my past behaviors. And basically, writing it down was really huge. So you don't have to go the traditional route. You don't have to, do 12-step inventory. That's very helpful, but you can also just journal. You can write this stuff down. It's very important to write it down. You can see it. It's putting it out there. And then for me, it was about sharing that with someone who had been there or who had been there and made it through. So that's why I advocate for, mentorship in recovery, recovery coaching, sponsorship and 12-step programs. Any route that you can take that gives you support from someone who's been there is what I encourage, because it's very, very important. And it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, but some of the same disciplines and solutions are just found in every single type of recovery. So basically, that's when shit started to change for me. I remember after a certain meeting with a person and I discussed all of this kind of stuff, like the shame, regret, fear, resentments, past behaviors with other people, how I affected other people. And I walked away from that, and that's when I felt a huge change in my life. just talking about it, just actually writing it out and being completely real about it. And like beforehand, while I was doing it, I was telling myself like, oh, I'm gonna do this wrong. Like, the person that's guiding me through this is gonna tell me like, oh, you messed up, you didn't do it right. I was like being kind of a perfectionist with it. And I read it all out, and the person said, hey, is there anything else? And there was a couple other things that just came up then. And I shared them, and then the person said, okay, thank you for sharing this with me. I can definitely, we talk about how we related to certain things and all of that. So look, there is a way out of that shame and regret. It's just when you're in it, the last thing you want to do generally is like talk openly about it and dive deep into it, because it's hard and it's emotionally charged, and it can even give you physical reactions like anxiety. It can make you shake and stuff like that. So that was my experience. And like I said, after I wrote all that stuff down and shared it with someone that I could trust, my life changed. Point blank. I remember exactly where I was. I remember walking to the sober house that I lived at, and I remember sitting down in my little twin bed and thinking to myself, damn, this really changed shit. Like, I feel pretty much an immediate change, and like the weight of the world was lifted off me. So that's huge. I encourage anyone out there to take any resources you can to address that shame and regret. So now I want to shift, and I want to talk about the expectations that can come up after this, okay? Because from this experience, I changed. Okay? I no longer was being motivated by these things that were like looming over me, It was now like I was coming from a place of just pure motivation and a little bit of relief, to be completely honest. I finally got a little bit of relief in recovery. And so that's why I always encourage people to work on your underlying mental health issues, your past trauma, your behavioral issues, all that stuff, because that's when the relief comes. People assume that it's going to be some like medicine they have to take or something like that, which can also be great tools. I'm not against medication. But what I'm saying is that for me, like the cravings, the bad feelings and all of that, they went away when I started deeply working on myself and my past. So to go back to what I was just referencing, the expectations that come up after this. So when you've changed, then you start to have kind of higher expectations because you acknowledge this change, you feel this change, and you know that it's true. And so then for me, I started having higher expectations of other people. And these can be kind of out of whack at first because look, for me, I was in my first year of active recovery. And now all of a sudden, I'm holding people to standards that apply to me in my life. So other people, non-addicts, non-alcoholics, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, hey, they need to be acting the way that I think they should. In knowing these disciplines that are very, very important for me, I was kind of projecting that stuff onto other people. I also had expectations that certain people should look at me in a new light immediately and just say, oh, this person is recovered, and I should just welcome them with open arms. Well, yes, you should welcome people in recovery in open arms as non-addicts or so-called normal people. But this expectation that it was just going to happen immediately is unrealistic because look, when you're an addict, usually you're in addiction for years and your behaviors are just not very good. You're not reliable. This isn't with every addict. Okay. Some people are so-called functioning addicts. And I would argue they still have a lot of the behavioral issues as well, but they may not be as pronounced. But anyways, what I'm saying is that after years of bad behavior and, not being in alignment with your true self, and for some people just downright hurting others, we can't have the expectation that everyone is just going to snap a finger and be like, okay, yeah, I'm here, I'm back, I'm all for this. You know what I mean? And so I think it's very important, especially with loved ones and family members. We can be very hurtful to family members. We can steal from them. We can physically hurt them sometimes. We can be verbally abusive and just manipulative. And so it's important to keep in mind that no one owes us shit. It's great to have people in your life that respect you and honor you. I'm not saying that we can't have that standard, but when we have expectations of other people, usually that just kind of sets you up for disappointment. And so I see this time and time again with people in early recovery, especially in the first year. We need to look at this and realize that a year sober is a great, amazing accomplishment, especially for someone like me who thought I could never even be sober for a day. But we need to look at the long haul. We need to look at the big picture. This is something that we have to maintain for the rest of our life. And that's not a burden. That's actually a huge opportunity because it puts us in a position to where we are okay within and we're not hurting other people. But what I'm saying is that we need to stop focusing on, oh, I've been sober or clean for a year. Now everyone needs to love and accept me. That's not how it is. And guess what? You will get a lot of that love and acceptance pretty quickly. You will. If not from family members, from tons of people in recovery. And that's the beautiful thing, is that just getting into recovery, there are millions of people across the world that will love you and support you and have nothing but compassion and understanding towards you while also holding you accountable, which can be tricky because if you're anything like me, I found accountability to be a personal attack, So yeah, I just wanted to say that, look, the shame and regret can be completely normal. So don't hate on yourself for that. Like don't go into judging yourself because you have the shame and regret, but go into action. Take positive action, share about it with a clinical professional, an addictionologist, someone who practices, counseling people in addiction. Share about it with a sponsor if you want to go the 12-step route. Share about it with a mentor and another alternative to a 12-step program. Share about it with a recovery coach. Share about it with an accountability coach. Share, like, anyone who has been there or has understanding about this stuff, I encourage that. You can also share about this stuff with just people you love and care about, but for me, it's more important to share with people who truly have been there because that lived experience is just so valuable. It's so precious, and it's why I'm still alive here today. And it's why I'm almost at 8 years clean and sober, which seemed completely impossible to me. I honestly thought that I wasn't going to make it. I thought that I was doomed to a life of addiction and that eventually I would just die from it. And fortunately, I was given the opportunity to live and to recover. And so, look, anyone can do this. I know it sounds so corny and so many people say this when they're talking about healing or recovering from a lot of things, that like, if I did it, anyone can. It's true though. It's so true. And you don't have to go the route I went. There's different routes, but what I'm saying is that some of these disciplines, they just remain the same, whether, doesn't matter which direction you go. You're going to have to talk openly and honestly about this stuff. And you can do it. And if you feel, like it's hard while you're doing it, that's completely normal too. So don't hate on yourself. Don't judge yourself. I have love for you if you're, in recovery or not. So just know that, you can do this. You have my support 100%. DM me on Instagram if you have any questions at all. Also, if you want personalized recovery content that I curate just for you, subscribe to my Patreon. It's also Sexton Sobriety. I'm on TikTok at Sexton Sobriety, Instagram Sexton. That's just my handle across the board. You can also email me sextonsobriety@gmail.com if you have a long message that you want to relay. So don't hesitate to reach out. You can do this, okay? You can do this. I know it. You have my love. You have my support. Be easy on yourself.